What if the richest man in town told you he'd never loved anyone, yet begged you to stay after just one night? He was a billionaire who built walls around his heart, and she was the one woman who dared break through. But did she really stay because of him, or because of the secret he couldn't risk losing? Before we start the story, leave a comment to let us know which city you're watching from. Like and subscribe to support our community. Your support means a lot to us. Now, enjoy the story as we continue. Mia Harper stood on the marble steps of Kingston Manor, her heart pounding like a drum in a silent hall. She had never been to a place so grand, and yet she felt strangely out of place. The evening breeze carried the scent of jasmine and something more, anticipation, perhaps, or the sweet promise of a night she would never forget. She smoothed the front of her simple black dress and glanced at the invitation in her hand. It was embossed with gold, an elegant script inviting her to a private charity gala hosted by the billionaire philanthropist, Alexander Kingston. Mia had hesitated before accepting. She was a struggling photographer, barely making ends meet. What could a man like Alexander want with her? But her best friend, Clara, insisted her talent deserved recognition. "You have to go," Clara had said. "You never know which door a single photo can open." Stepping inside, Mia was swallowed by crystal chandeliers and lofty ceilings. Well-dressed guests mingled, their laughter drifting through the air like music. Valets in crisp uniforms guided cars away, waiters in white jackets carried trays of champagne. Mia's palms were damp, and she pressed the invitation to her chest, a talisman against her nerves. She turned toward the grand ballroom and froze. There, beneath a cluster of twinkling lights, stood Alexander Kingston himself, tall, impeccably dressed in a black tuxedo that seemed to blend into the shadows. His dark hair was swept back, and his piercing blue eyes scanned the room with the cool precision of a predator. He looked every bit the man who owned half the city, yet there was a hardness in his expression that spoke of years spent guarding his heart. A hush fell as he raised his glass. "Welcome," he said, his voice smooth and low, carrying easily across the room. "Tonight is not about parties or pleasure. It is about purpose." He lifted his glass higher. "To new beginnings, into believing that even the richest soul can find something money cannot buy." Mia felt a tremor of curiosity. She had come expecting opulence, she did not expect sincerity. Slowly, clapping began to ripple through the crowd. Mia joined in, her eyes locked on Alexander, as if trying to read the secret behind his blue gaze. After the toast, the crowd scattered into smaller groups. Mia drifted toward the hors d'oeuvres table, picking at bruschetta and wondering what she was doing here. A gentle voice spoke beside her. "Excuse me, are you Mia Harper, the photographer?" Mia turned. A young event planner smiled at her warmly. "I'm Sophie. I manage Alexander's events. He saw your work online, the photos you took of the children's choir last month. He was moved." Mia's mouth went dry. "He watched. I thought he donated anonymously." Sophie nodded. "He follows your blog. He found your images honest and full of heart. When he saw you were here, he asked me to introduce you." Her pulse raced. Alexander Kingston, the man she'd only known in headlines, had actually looked at her pictures, and cared. Sophie offered her a glass of champagne. "He'll be over in a moment. Don't worry, he's not as intimidating up close." Mia gave a shaky laugh. "Easy for you to say." Moments later, Alexander emerged from a side corridor. He was even more magnetic close up, the curve of his jaw, the way his dark lashes cast shadows on his cheekbones. He paused a few feet away, studying Mia as though she were a rare painting. "Miss Harper," he said, his voice softer now. He dipped his head. "Thank you for coming." Mia lifted her glass. "Mr. Kingston. Thank you for inviting me." He gestured toward a secluded alcove. "Walk with me?" As they moved into the quieter space, Mia noticed a photograph pinned to the wall, a little girl holding a teddy bear, her eyes wide with hope. Underneath, a plaque, Hope's Light Orphanage, sponsored by Alexander Kingston. The image was one of Mia's own, one she'd taken for a local fundraiser. Alexander glanced at the photo. That's your work? Mia nodded. I spent a week there, telling their stories. He studied her face, then turned back to the room. You have a gift for seeing people, Ms. Harper. It's rare. He paused. I wonder if you'd consider working with me. Mia's breath caught. Working, how? He offered a small, genuine smile. I'm launching a foundation to support community artists. I want you to document our projects, your way. Mia's mind raced. This was more than she had ever dared hope. Yet a flicker of doubt crossed her chest. Why me? Alexander's gaze found hers. For the first time, his eyes softened, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't expected. Because I believe you'll capture what truly matters, and I need someone who can remind me why I started this in the first place. Mia felt a warmth spread through her, a spark of something new, hope, perhaps, or the first stirrings of something deeper. She raised her glass, her voice steady. I'd be honored. He nodded, then added quietly, almost to himself, thank you for staying tonight. Mia's heart skipped. She had come as a guest, but she would leave with a purpose. And as she looked into his earnest face, she realized she was exactly where she needed to be. The next morning, Mia woke to sharp sunlight streaming through her curtains. Her phone buzzed, 8 a.m. Be ready. Kingston Foundation headquarters. AK. Last night's gala felt like a dream, but this message was real, and excitement fluttered in her chest. She dressed in jeans and a white blouse, tucking her trusted camera into its leather case. Each scratch on its surface reminded her of all the moments she had witnessed through her lens, of sorrow turned to joy, of broken dreams made whole again. As she drove through the city, she passed shuttered shops and busy markets. She wondered what Alexander expected of her. Would he judge her work or value her vision? Memories of his genuine smile guided her steps. She reminded herself that this was more than a job, it was a chance to use her gift to heal and inspire. Kingston Foundation headquarters was a modest building near the riverbank, its bright sign promising hope. Mia paused at the entrance, heart steadying as she stepped inside. Inside, bright murals from past projects decorated the walls, and the hum of collaboration filled the air. She found Alexander in the main hall, standing before eager faces. His dark hair caught the morning light, and for a moment, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man on a mission. Good morning, Ms. Harper, he greeted, offering a steaming cup of coffee. Good morning, Mr. Kingston, she replied, accepting the warmth in her hands. Today's mission was a mural on the community center's wall, a gift to a neighborhood long overlooked. Alexander explained they would paint scenes of unity and growth, but he wanted Mia's honesty. Her photographs would guide the art. She felt the walls hum with possibilities. He handed her a sketchbook filled with designs, branches entwined with faces, a golden sun shining over a river, children dancing. This is our vision, he said. But if you see something different, something truer, speak up. Mia studied the pages. They were beautiful, but safe. She tapped a page. What if we include real people? Their faces here, she said, pointing to the sun's rays. Actual neighbors instead of ideal figures. Alexander considered her, eyes narrowing slightly. Show me who you have in mind. She led him outside, camera ready. Mrs. Delgado, the former schoolteacher, was unlocking the door. Jamal, a shy 12-year-old, clutched his sister's hand. Carlos, the retired mechanic, sat on a bench, feeding pigeons. Mia fired off shots, capturing their small kindnesses. Back inside, Alexander watched the photos. These, he said, voice low, are perfect. Let's bring them to life. They sketched outlines on the wall. Mia climbed a ladder, tracing Mrs. Delgado's face in charcoal. Alexander steadied the ladder, their fingers brushing and mutual understanding blossomed between them. She looked up, meeting his gaze. He offered her a brush. Your turn. Mia dipped it into teal paint and began filling in the pupil. Alexander leaned close. You have an artist's soul, he murmured. A camera that sees through walls. Her cheeks flushed. She painted, each stroke an act of faith. It felt sacred. At midday, they paused for a simple lunch on painted barrels. Volunteers passed sandwiches and water. Alexander listened to their stories, nodding as he tucked bread into his jacket pocket for later. Mia cleaned her brushes. Alexander watched her. "What haunts you, Alexander?" she asked softly. He sighed, looking at the half-finished mural. "I lost someone I loved," he admitted. "I built walls around my heart afterward. I started this foundation for her memory. But I still fear investing in people, especially love." Mia's heart tightened. "Love is worth the risk," she said. "It gives life its brightest color." He studied her, as if tasting the truth of her words. Around them, the mural grew brighter, each face reaching for sunlight. As the sun dipped low, the wall shone with promises painted in hope. Mia packed her camera, her spirit alight. Tomorrow, they would return to add more color. But tonight, she knew something had begun, not just in the paint, but in two guarded hearts daring to open. Morning light filtered through the studio's high windows as Mia arrived, her camera slung over one shoulder and a box of paints under the other arm. The mural from yesterday glowed in soft pastels, but gaps remained, blank spaces waiting for stories to fill them. Today would be their busiest day yet. Alexander was already there, reviewing notes with Sophie, the event planner. His suit jacket lay over a chair, replaced by a paint-splattered polo shirt. When he saw Mia, he smiled, warm and genuine, and raised his brush in a silent toast. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," Mia replied, settling her items on a table. "What's on the agenda?" He laid out a simple plan: capture life along the riverbank. Gather new faces, new hopes. Mia would photograph each person, then they'd sketch them on the wall. By day's end, the mural would stretch half its length. They set off toward the river. The morning air held the scent of wet earth and fresh paint. Along the walkway, vendors set up stalls of fruit and handmade crafts. Children chased each other, their laughter echoing like water over stones. Mia raised her camera, capturing the moment, two girls, swinging their arms, carefree. Alexander watched her work. "You see poetry in ordinary things," he observed. She lowered her lens. "Every life is a poem," she said. "We just need to read it." He nodded thoughtfully. "I'd forgotten that." As they walked, an elderly man paused to greet them. His name was Mr. Adebayo, and he had once owned the boat ferrying people across the river. Now he was retired, living alone. Mia asked if she could take his picture, wanted to honor his years of service to the community. He agreed, adjusting his cap with a proud smile. Behind him, the water sparkled. Mia clicked the shutter. When she showed him the image on her screen, tears welled in his eyes. "I haven't seen myself like that in years," he whispered. "Thank you." Alexander placed a hand on the man's shoulder. "Your story matters to us all." Mia captured more moments: a young mother teaching her child to skip stones, two teenagers painting a small fence white, a fisherman humming as he repaired his net. Each photograph revealed a fragment of life, and with each shot, Alexander's expression softened. The walls he built around his heart were eroding under the weight of these images. Back at the studio, they transferred the new faces to the mural. Mia sketched first, mapping outlines with charcoal. Alexander filled in the colors: vivid reds, deep blues, bright yellows, his strokes confident and bold. They worked side by side, their conversation drifting from the project to personal confessions. "I haven't told you why I never fell in love after her," he said quietly, pausing to mix a shade of green. Mia studied his face. The question hung between them like freshly mixed paint. "Why?" she prompted gently. He sighed. "I was young and reckless then. I lost someone precious because I put business first. I thought love would always fail me if I let it in." Mia's heart ached. "Love can break, yes," she said, "but it can also heal. It can teach us to be brave." She reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead, an accidental, tender gesture that made both of them pause. Alexander's breath hitched. For a moment, time slowed. Then he cleared his throat and stepped back, shaking off the intimate moment. "Come on," he said, a flush rising to his cheeks. "Let's finish this section." They resumed painting, but the air had changed. There was an undercurrent of something new, something neither had named yet. As they worked, Mia felt the past swirl around her, memories of her own heartbreak after a failed relationship, a time when she locked away her camera kit for fear of capturing the world's pain again. It was only through art that she found healing, and through Alexander's trust, she rediscovered her courage. By late afternoon, the mural's river scene was complete, children dancing at the water's edge, elders smiling under a painted bridge, fishermen casting nets that shimmered like gold. The faces of real people, immortalized in paint, connected the wall to the town's heartbeat. They stood back to admire their work. Alexander wiped sweat from his brow and offered Mia his water bottle. She accepted with a grateful smile. "You've given this place a soul," he said softly. Mia paused, thinking of Mr. Adebayo's tears, of every shutter click, of the stories they'd uncovered together. "It was already here," she replied. "We just helped it speak." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting a golden glow over the mural, Alexander turned to her. His eyes were clear, free of the guarded walls she had seen before. For the first time, he seemed ready to believe in something more than his own success. "Thank you for today," he said, his voice low. Mia met his gaze, her heart full. "Thank you for letting me in." And in that moment, between the painted faces and the fading light, their worlds began to merge, two stories becoming one. The following evening, the mural glowed under strategically placed lanterns. Children ran their fingers along the bright paint, and neighbors posed for photos beneath their own portraits. Mia watched from a distance, capturing the joy she and Alexander had inspired. His face, illuminated by the soft light, looked less like a guarded fortress and more like a man rediscovering warmth. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Alexander's voice at her side made her start. He held 2 steaming cups of cocoa. "Thought you might need something sweet after a long day." Mia accepted a cup. The chocolatey aroma mingled with the night air. "Thank you." She wrapped her hands around the mug's curve, savoring its heat. "It's incredible how one wall can hold so many lives." He nodded. "We did good work." He studied her face, eyes gentle. "You did." "I was just the brush." Mia smiled, but before she could respond, a crash echoed from inside the studio. They rushed toward the sound, mugs forgotten. Inside, Sophie stood amid spilled paint and shattered glass. A large window had been broken, wind and nighttime dust swirled through the frame. "Someone smashed it," Sophie said, voice trembling. "And spray-painted art is dead on the outer wall." Alexander's jaw tightened. Mia stepped forward, surveying the defaced mural. Dark letters marred the sunrise scene. A pang of anger and sorrow stung her chest. "Who would do this?" she whispered. Alexander knelt to inspect the spray paint. "I don't know," he said, voice low and controlled. "But it won't stay." He turned to his staff. "Get me cleaners and new paint. We'll repair it by morning." Mia caught Alexander's sleeve. "Let me help." He hesitated, then nodded. "Stay here tonight with Sophie. I'll handle the repairs." She watched him stride into the darkness, his shoulders squared against the injustice. For the first time, she saw vulnerability in him, not from loss of love, but from seeing his dream wounded. Back inside, Sophie handed Mia a dust mask and gloves. "We work well under pressure," Mia said, forcing a calm she didn't feel. They scrubbed at the spray paint. Mia's heart pounded as she scrubbed darker streaks. Each push of the brush felt like fighting an unseen enemy. Eventually, the letters faded, and she applied fresh primer. "I can't believe someone hates art that much," Sophie muttered. Mia paused, wiping sweat from her brow. "It's not art they hate," she said quietly. "They hate what it represents: hope, change." She looked at the spotless wall beneath her hands. and fear that they'll be left behind. Sophie nodded, then smiled wryly. Well, let's show them that hope paints over hate. They worked in silence until the new mural section was ready. As they painted in the last strokes of sunrise, the sky outside brightened with dawn. When Alexander returned, covered in paint but triumphant, Mia greeted him with a tired grin. He surveyed their repaired work and exhaled a long breath. They tried to tear us down, he said, leaning against the wall beside her. But look. He gestured to the sunrise scene, now more vivid than before. We're still here. Mia reached out, brushing fresh paint off his cheek. Her finger lingered. You're still here, she echoed softly. He looked at her, their faces inches apart. The vulnerability in his gaze made her pulse flutter. But before either could speak, Alexander's phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his expression darkened. It's my lawyer, he said, stepping away. Something urgent about the foundation's funding. Mia felt a familiar ache at the back of her mind. She had seen that look before, responsibility tugging him away, walls rising again. Is it bad? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He hesitated, then shook his head. Nothing I can't fix. But I need to handle this now. Mia nodded, though disappointment stung her. I understand. He placed a hand on her shoulder, brief, tentative. I'll be back tonight. I promise. She forced a smile. I'll be here. As he walked away, Mia sank onto a low bench. Sophie joined her, offering a fresh cup of coffee. He cares about you, Sophie said softly. But business is still his first love. Mia lifted her cup. I know. I just wish I didn't feel so afraid he'd choose it over me. Sophie squeezed her arm. Give him time. He's learning. Mia gazed at the mural, sunrise warming painted faces. Maybe, just maybe, love was worth painting over fear. She took a deep breath. Tonight, she would wait. And tomorrow, she would help Alexander rebuild walls, not to keep people out, but to shelter the love he was still learning to believe in. The following morning, rain drummed lightly against Mia's apartment window. She hovered over her laptop, editing yesterday's photos of the repaired mural, faces smiling in renewed color. Her phone buzzed, a message from Alexander. Meet me at HQ, urgent. Her heart lurched. She grabbed her coat, camera still in its case, and raced through puddled streets toward the foundation's modest building by the riverbank. Inside, the lobby was eerily quiet. Sophie emerged from the offices, eyes tense. He's in his office, she said softly. I'm not sure how bad it is. Mia climbed the stairs two at a time. When she reached Alexander's door, it was ajar. She paused, then pushed it open. Alexander sat at his desk, head in hands. Piles of papers, spreadsheets, legal notices, bank statements fanned out before him. His tie was loosened. He looked every bit the betrayed Titan. Mia, he said without looking up. Thank you for coming. She set her camera bag down and pulled out a notepad. What's happened? He ran a hand through his hair. One of our major sponsors pulled out overnight. They heard about the vandalism and the art is dead graffiti. Suddenly they say the foundation isn't a safe investment. Mia sank into the chair across from him. So they're afraid of controversy? Alexander's jaw clenched. Yes. And without their funding, the whole project stalls. We can't pay the painters, the material costs, everything grinds to a halt. He exhaled sharply. I've worked so hard, but I never expected my own fear of love to be matched by other people's fear of progress. Mia watched him, sadness pricking her heart. The man who built walls around his emotions now faced walls of bureaucracy and prejudice. She closed her notepad. Let me help. He looked at her, skepticism lingering. How? Your foundation needs a story they can't ignore, she said, voice firm. Not a pitch full of charts and forecasts, but the real lives you're saving, like Mr. Adebayo, Mrs. Delgado, Jamal, and his sister. She tapped her camera bag. I have hundreds of photos. If we craft a visual narrative, we can present an emotional case that no sponsor can deny. Alexander's eyes brightened for the first time since he'd called her. We'd need more than photos. We need a campaign, videos, testimonials, public support. Mia nodded. Let me gather content. We'll stay here all day and night if we have to. He stood, brushing papers to the floor. Let's do it. They sprang into action. Mia sorted her best images into folders: hope, unity, transformation. Alexander recorded short video messages on his phone, speaking directly to the camera about why he founded the project and what he'd learned from the community. Sophie emailed every volunteer for written testimonials. By midday, the conference room table was buried under laptops, memory sticks, and coffee cups. As rain pounded the windows, they crafted a slide deck that opened with a photo of the broken window, black spray paint defacing the sunrise mural, and then faded into the restored artwork. Under each image, Mia's captions told stories in 3 sentences or fewer. Mr. Adebayo, 78, sold his boat to feed orphans. He didn't ask for help until Alex arrived. 2 sisters found laughter painting a wall that once reminded them of loss. Each testimony was crisp, honest, and deeply human. By evening, their hearts pounded with exhaustion and triumph. Alexander leaned back in his chair, staring at the final slide, a collage of smiling faces, including Mia's behind-the-scenes portrait of him laughing with children. He turned to her. We've done it. Mia felt a warmth spread through her chest, pride in something more. Now we present. The next morning, Alexander faced the board of directors, Mia at his side. He began with financial figures but paused, self-conscious. Then he clicked to the first emotional slide, the broken mural. A hush fell. He spoke from the heart. This foundation exists not for reports, but for people. As he guided them through Mia's images and volunteer stories, the board members shifted in their seats. When the presentation ended, a long silence followed. Then the chairwoman cleared her throat and smiled. Mr. Kingston, this is the most compelling case I've ever seen. How can we support you? Relief washed over Alexander's face. He looked at Mia, gratitude shining in his eyes. After the meeting, they walked outside into a bright, washed clean morning. Puddles glittered in the sunlight. Alexander turned to Mia and took both her hands. You saved this foundation, he said quietly. I couldn't have done it without you. Mia squeezed his hands, feeling the steady beat of hope between them. We did it together. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. Thank you for believing in me. Her breath caught. I believe in us. He leaned in, and in the gentle warmth of that moment, they sealed their alliance, not just as partners in art and philanthropy, but as 2 hearts learning to trust again. And as they walked back to the mural, hand in hand, Mia knew that no storm, no vandalism, and no fear could ever paint over what they had discovered, that love, like art, was worth every risk. A week later, the Kingston Foundation's community center was transformed into an art gallery. White drapes hung from the beams, and spotlights highlighted each photograph Mia had chosen. The mural, now completely restored, was draped in a pale curtain, waiting for the grand reveal. Chairs lined the center aisle, filled with local leaders, sponsors, and excited neighbors. A soft hum of conversation filled the air as everyone waited for Alexander and Mia to take the stage. Backstage, Mia smoothed her dress, a simple navy sheath that made her feel both confident and vulnerable. Her heart fluttered at the thought of standing before a crowd, sharing stories so personal. Sophie slipped a reassuring hand onto her shoulder. You've done all the work, she whispered. Just speak from your heart. Mia nodded, taking a steadying breath. She glanced at Alexander, who was adjusting his cufflinks beside her. In the week since their boardroom victory, he had been different, lighter, more open, and often seeking her out with a genuine smile. Yet tonight, she sensed the weight of expectation. When you're ready, Alexander said softly, offering his arm. She linked hers through his, and they walked onto the stage together. The room fell quiet as Alexander stepped up to the podium. He began with gratitude, thanking sponsors, volunteers, and the neighborhood for their trust. Then he turned to Mia. None of this would have happened without an artist who saw beyond figures on a page, someone who saw our community's soul, he said, his eyes warm on her. Mia's breath caught as she moved to the microphone. She cleared her throat and spoke in her calmest voice. Photography is more than capturing light. It's about capturing truth, moments of joy, pain, hope, and change. She clicked a remote, and the first image, a close-up of Mr. Adebayo's weathered hands holding a paintbrush, glowed on a screen behind her. These hands once guided a ferry across this river. Now, they guided a mural that brings us together. She advanced to the next slide, two young sisters clasping paintbrushes. These girls taught me that art can heal old wounds, Mia continued. Her voice wavered when she shared the story of Jamal, whose shy smile had brightened with each painted stroke. Yet, with each tear in her voice, Alexander's encouraging gaze kept her steady. When her presentation ended, the audience erupted into applause. Alexander joined her at the podium. Now, let us unveil the mural that started it all. He motioned to the curtain. Music swelled, and together they pulled it aside. A collective gasp rose as the sunrise mural, alive with real faces and real stories, stood revealed in its full glory. For a moment, no one spoke. Then cheers and whistles filled the hall. Mia felt tears prick her eyes as neighbors pointed out their friends and family among the painted crowd. Alexander wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. She leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling a surge of pride and tenderness. Later, as the crowd dispersed into small groups around the gallery, Alexander and Mia stood near a display of her favorite photos. He handed her a glass of champagne. "You were amazing," he said quietly. Mia smiled, looking up at him. "I was only telling truths you gave me." He tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "And you told them so beautifully." His gaze dropped to her lips, and his breath caught. "Mia." She felt her heart soar. Before she could reply, a voice called his name from across the room. It was Clara, Mia's best friend, waving excitedly at her. Relief washed over Mia. At least one person here had come purely for her. Alexander excused himself politely and joined Clara, leaving Mia alone for a moment. She walked to the gallery's entrance, where family members of the mural's subjects hugged her, thanking her for sharing their stories. Warmth filled her chest, a reminder of why she had become a photographer. When she turned back, Alexander waited with a drink in each hand. He handed one to her and guided her to a small balcony overlooking the river, where lanterns floated on the water below. The night was calm, and the stars reflected off the gentle ripples. He wrapped a blanket around both their shoulders. "I wanted this moment to be perfect," he said, voice soft. "But I'm realizing perfection happens when we're together, even if things get messy." Mia looked at him, her heart full. "It's perfect now." He reached over and brushed his thumb across her cheek. "Thank you for staying," he whispered. Her breath caught at his words, echoes of promises she had longed to hear. Night wind curled around them, and for the first time, they stood on the edge of something more than art or charity. In the glow of river lanterns and painted memories, they found a new beginning, one painted with hope, trust, and a love daring to bloom beneath the stars. Morning dawned clear and bright, the river sparkling like scattered diamonds. Mia woke to a soft vibration on her phone, a message from Alexander. "Meet at the gallery at 9. I have news." Her heart fluttered with curiosity and something deeper, anticipation, perhaps, of what news might mean. She dressed quickly in jeans and a light sweater, grabbed her camera, and headed to the community center. The gallery doors were already open when she arrived, and Sophie greeted her with an excited smile. "Alexander's in the main hall," Sophie whispered. "He's been on calls all morning." Mia found him standing before the mural, arms crossed, staring at the painted faces as though he could read their dreams. He turned when he saw her. "Good morning," he said, his voice steady but bright. "Morning," Mia replied, stepping beside him. "What's up?" He gestured to a tablet in his hand. "I just heard from the city council. They want to expand our project, 3 more murals in neighboring districts. His eyes shone. They love the unveiling so much they're giving us full funding. Mia's breath caught. That's incredible. He nodded. We start next week. But it means more work, longer hours. He paused, studying her face. Are you in? Mia felt a surge of pride and loyalty. Of course, she said. This is what we've worked for. Alexander smiled, relief and gratitude mixing in his expression. Thank you. He said, almost under his breath, I don't think I could do this without you. Mia's cheeks warmed. You'll never have to. They spent the morning photographing new locations, blank walls by the old courthouse, a shuttered storefront near the school, and a long alley where stray cats sometimes gathered at dusk. Mia clicked her shutter, capturing textures of brick and stone, the play of light and shadow. Alexander watched her work, occasionally pointing out a crack that could become an artistic flourish or a corner where a face might appear. By midday, their cameras and notebooks were filled with ideas. They paused in a quiet courtyard for lunch, sitting on a low stone wall. Mia unwrapped a sandwich, and Alexander handed her a thermos of tea. This project is growing faster than I imagined, he said, pouring tea into paper cups. Mia sipped and gazed at the sky. It's amazing, she agreed. But I worry about the pace. I don't want us to burn out. His expression softened. I worry about that too. He glanced at her, concern in his eyes. I've been so focused on the work, I haven't asked how you're doing. Mia set her cup down. I'm doing well, she said, though her mind flickered to the late nights she'd spent editing photos and drafting proposals. But if this expands, we'll need help. Volunteers, local artists, people who care. Alexander nodded. You're right. Let's bring in the community, just like we did before. He reached across and squeezed her hand. Together. Her heart fluttered at the promise in his tone. Together, she echoed. The afternoon was a blur of meetings with local artists, some shy, some brimming with ideas. Mia introduced herself and Alexander, and watched as friendships formed over shared passion. They sketched rough designs on cardboard and tested paint samples on small boards, laughter and paint splatters connecting strangers in a common purpose. As sunset approached, they returned to the gallery to check emails. Mia thumbed through her inbox. One message caught her eye, a press inquiry. A local newspaper wanted an exclusive interview about the project, and about the woman who captured the billionaire's heart. Mia's breath hitched. Alexander noticed her change in expression. What is it? I have a press request, she said. They want to ask about us, about you and me. He studied her face. And how do you feel about that? Mia looked at the mural's painted sunrise, now soft in the evening glow. I want our story told. But I don't want the focus to be on us, we should keep it on the community. He nodded thoughtfully. Agreed. If we do this, it should be about why we're here, not just a romance headline. She smiled, grateful. Exactly. Alexander put an arm around her shoulders. Then let's do it, together. We'll write the piece jointly. You tell the stories you see, I'll share why I started. His voice was firm, protective. And we'll remind people that love and art can build entire bridges. Mia leaned into him. I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. They stood in that quiet gallery, hands intertwined, as the last rays of sunlight faded. The murals around them held the hopes and histories of their neighbors, and now, at the brink of a new chapter, one of expansion, exposure, and deeper connection, they found strength in each other's presence. Outside, the city lights began to blink on, as though cheering them onward. And as they walked home together under a violet sky, Mia felt a steady certainty. No matter what tomorrow brought, they would face it side by side, brush and camera in hand, painting a future filled with hope and love. The next morning, Mia arrived at the Kingston Foundation Gallery to find a small film crew setting up lights and cameras around the mural. Sophie waved her over. Today's the press day, she whispered, handing Mia a cup of tea. They're ready whenever you are. Mia's stomach fluttered. A week ago, this gallery was her private canvas. Now, it was about to carry her story for the world. She smoothed the front of her blouse, checked her reflection in a nearby window, and drew a steadying breath. Alexander emerged from his office, tie loosened but eyes clear and calm. He offered her a reassuring smile. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be," she replied, giving him a small, confident nod. Together, they stepped in front of the cameras. The journalist, a poised woman with a friendly smile, began with formalities: name, role, purpose of the project. Then she asked the question Mia had been both dreading and secretly anticipating. "Ms. Harper, you've documented every step of this foundation's journey. But there's been talk of a deeper partnership between you and Mr. Kingston. How do you respond to those headlines?" Mia glanced at Alexander. His blue eyes held hers, steady and trusting. She turned back to the journalist. "This project was born of community," Mia said. "Our partnership, Alexander's vision and my camera, serves a greater purpose, empowering voices that too often go unheard. If our story inspires others to collaborate, to believe in change, then I welcome the headlines." The journalist nodded, sensing her sincerity. She switched to Alexander. "Mr. Kingston, do you believe your own story changed because of your relationship with Ms. Harper?" He paused, then spoke quietly but firmly. "Yes. In building walls around my heart, I forgot what it meant to connect. Mia reminded me that people, stories, are the truest form of currency. I wouldn't be standing here without her." A soft murmur of admiration rippled through the crew. Mia's heart swelled. She thanked the journalist and cameras stopped rolling. As the crew packed up, Sophie hugged her. "You were wonderful." Later, as they walked through the community center's back corridor, Alexander linked his arm with hers. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You spoke your truth." Mia felt warmth spread through her. "Thank you for trusting me." They paused before a door-marked children's art studio. Inside, colorful paintings and crafts cover the walls. A group of kids cheered as Mia and Alexander entered. "Ms. Harper!" "Mr. Kingston!" they shouted in unison. Mia crouched to face them. "Hey, you artists! What are you working on today?" A shy boy held up a drawing of the mural, complete with stick figure versions of her and Alexander. "It's you two," he explained. "We wanted to say thanks." Alexander and Mia exchanged smiles. "Thank you," Alexander said, kneeling beside the boy. "This means so much to us." As the children returned to their easels, Alexander stood and offered Mia his hand. "Come on. I have another surprise for you." They followed him outside where a sleek white van waited, its doors emblazoned with the Kingston Foundation logo and Mia's favorite image of the painted sunrise. A large banner read, "Mia Harper, Documenting Change, National Tour." Mia's eyes widened. "A tour?" He nodded. "We're taking this show on the road. The new murals, the stories, they'll travel to 5 cities in the coming months. And you," he said with a playful bow, "are the lead storyteller." Tears pricked her eyes. The world, her art, was about to expand beyond this neighborhood. I don't know what to say." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "Say yes?" She took his hand, voice trembling with joy. "Yes." He slipped a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a simple silver locket. Inside was a miniature replica of the sunrise mural. "For you," he said. "A reminder of where this all began, and where we go next." Mia's breath caught. She closed the locket and fastened it around her neck. "I'll carry this story always." He hugged her tightly. "And I'll carry you." As they stood in the soft morning light, surrounded by painted walls, hopeful children, and a world eager for change, Mia realized that their partnership had become something larger than art or philanthropy. It was a journey of hearts unleashed, the kind of love she once thought only existed in fairy tales. And now, headline or no headline, their story was just beginning. The rumble of the van's engine felt like a heartbeat as Mia and Alexander set out on their first stop of the national tour. Dawn lights spilled across the highway, painting the empty road gold. Mia peered out the window, locket warm against her blouse. She felt a mix of excitement and nerves. This was new territory for both of them. Next exit is Crestview, Alexander announced, checking his GPS. It used to be a mining town. Now some walls are faded, and hope is thin. Mia nodded, raising her camera. Then we'll paint hope again. They arrived mid-morning in Crestview's main square. The town was quiet, storefronts shuttered, and a small crowd of curious onlookers gathered near an old brick wall. A banner read, "Welcome to Kingston Foundation and Mia Harper's Road Tour." A local councilman, Mr. Diaz, stepped forward. His suit was neat but plain, and his expression was polite but guarded. "Mr. Kingston, Ms. Harper," he said. "Thank you for coming. We've seen other projects fall through. We hope yours lasts." Alexander offered a warm smile. "We're here for the long haul." Mia raised her camera, catching the councilman's doubt in a photo. "Every story needs a beginning," she said softly. "Let's start ours now." They unrolled a tarp to reveal the blank wall. Volunteers, mostly residents curious about this outsider project, joined Mia in sorting paints and brushes. Alexander knelt beside a young man named Marcus, whose hands shook as he gripped a roller. "First time painting?" Alexander asked kindly. Marcus nodded. "I'm afraid I'll mess it up." Alexander dipped the roller into bright blue paint and handed it over. "Art isn't perfect," he said. "It's honest. Just like life." Marcus smiled and began to roll. Mia moved through the crowd, snapping photos of neighbors who stepped up, a nurse with paint on her scrubs, a retiree humming as he mixed colors, a shy teenage girl tracing the outline of a dove. Each click of her shutter wove a new thread into Crestview's tapestry. By late afternoon, a rough mural took shape, dove wings spreading across the bricks, a sunrise rising behind them. Alexander painted the horizon line, his brush steady, while Mia documented every stroke. As the sun dipped low, they gathered volunteers for a short speech. Mia handed the microphone to Alexander. "This mural is more than paint on stone," he said, voice carrying across the square. "It's proof that even worn-down walls can hold hope." He turned to Mia. "And to the artist who taught me that love, like art, needs courage to begin." Mia felt her heart swell. She stepped forward and spoke from her own truth. "I see your town's strength in every face here. Marcus's first stroke, Mrs. Lee's careful lines, and the laughter we shared today. That's the real masterpiece." The crowd broke into spontaneous applause. Marcus wiped sweat from his brow, pride glowing in his eyes. The councilman, Mr. Diaz, stepped up and shook Alexander's hand firmly. "You've given us more than art," he said. "You've given us back our story." As night fell, the van pulled into a small roadside motel. Inside, Mia unpacked her camera gear and Alexander sorted paints for tomorrow's mural. She paused in the dim hallway, remembering how terrified Marcus was at first. She thought of every volunteer who dared to pick up a brush. Then she heard soft footsteps behind her. Alexander joined her at the door. "Beautiful work today." She smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "We did it together." He hesitated, then spoke quietly. "I've built empires, but today I saw the power of a single brushstroke and the courage of a single heart." He reached for her hand. "Thank you for teaching me that." Mia's breath caught. She turned to face him, their bodies illuminated by the pale corridor light. "You taught me too," she whispered. "That love can cross any border." He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss. "Then let's cross them all." Later, as they prepared for bed in their modest room, Mia found the locket glowing softly against her skin. She thought of the sunrise mural, now replicated by hand in metal close to her heart. Alexander lay beside her, arms open. "Good night, Mia," he said, voice gentle. "Good night, Alexander," she replied, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breath. As sleep claimed them, dreams of painted walls and shared journeys merged with the soft promise of tomorrow. The road ahead was long, full of blank canvases waiting for color, and together, they were ready to paint everyone. Dawn broke over the highway as Mia and Alexander rolled into Riverton, their second stop. The town's bridge arched across a lazy river, its paint peeling and rust visible. Across the bridge, a long wall ran beside the main street, a perfect canvas for their next mural. Mia parked the van, breathing in the fresh morning air. "Look at that bridge," she said. "It needs help, too." Alexander nodded, stepping out. "One project at a time." "But yes, it does." He noticed a group of locals watching them unload. "Let's introduce ourselves." They gathered under the bridge, where echoing water droplets made every word sound larger. Mia smiled at the crowd. "I'm Mia Harper, and this is Alexander Kingston. We're here to paint hope." A middle-aged woman in overalls crossed her arms. "We've had painters before," she said. "But they never stayed." Her tone was cautious. Alexander looked her in the eye. "We're not just painting walls. We're building something that lasts." He pointed to the bridge above. "I want to restore that, too, because I believe in honoring the past and what carries us forward." Murmurs of approval rippled through the group. The woman relaxed and extended her hand. "I'm Linda. I run the Riverton Historical Society." They shook hands. Linda smiled. "Let's get started." Volunteers gathered supplies, buckets of paint, rollers, brushes, and ladders. Mia sketched rough designs on her notepad, silhouettes of children running across the bridge, petals blowing from one side of the wall to the other. They divided tasks. Alexander and Linda climbed ladders to scrape away rust on the bridge railing while Mia and the volunteers mixed paint for the mural. The air felt charged with purpose. As they worked, Mia noticed Alexander grow quiet. His brow furrowed as he sanded stubborn rust. Concern tugged at her. "Alexander, you okay?" she asked. He paused, setting down the sander. "Just thinking about how much work there is." His voice sounded tired. "We've been moving fast. I worry we're pushing too hard." Mia climbed up beside him on the ladder. "You pushed yourself through worse. But maybe you should slow down." He offered a tired smile. "And miss all this?" He waved toward the bridge and wall. "No. But I'll rest when this is done." She reached out and cleaned paint flecks off his cheek. "Promise me you'll take a break tonight?" He met her gaze, and in his eyes she saw gratitude, and a flicker of fear at letting go. "I promise." They finished sanding just as the sun climbed higher. Lunch arrived, sandwiches and lemonade provided by Linda's society. They ate on picnic tables under the bridge, surrounded by locals eager to share stories. An elderly man with a cane told of his childhood, fishing beneath the very bridge they were restoring. A teenage girl described her dream of becoming an artist but feeling trapped in a town that valued escape over creation. Mia listened, camera ready, capturing laughter and the glint of hope in tired eyes. After lunch, they tackled the mural wall. Mia guided volunteers as they traced her sketches in charcoal. Alexander moved between the bridge and the wall, painting sunlit ripples on the water and delicate petals carried on the wind. As the day waned, shadows grew long. The mural blossomed, children running toward a painted sunrise, petals arching overhead and transforming into birds as they traveled across the wall. Underneath, the real bridge, freshly restored and painted, gleamed in bright blue. Exhausted but exhilarated, they stepped back to admire their work. The townspeople gathered, cheering and clapping. Linda approached, her eyes moist. "You've given us more than paint, you've given us a view of what we can become." Alexander rested a hand on Mia's shoulder. "We did this together." Mia looked up at him, feeling the bond between them deepen. "Together," she agreed. As dusk settled, volunteers drifted away, leaving the mural illuminated by portable lights Alexander had arranged. Mia and Alexander sat on the bridge railing, legs dangling over the river. He handed her a blanket, and she leaned into him. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of fresh paint and summer flowers. I kept my promise, Alexander said softly. I took a break. Mia turned to him. And it looks beautiful. He tilted his head and brushed a gentle kiss to her temple. Not as beautiful as you. Her heart fluttered. You're going to make me believe I'm part of this too. He wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. You are. You always have been. Under the star-studded sky, on a bridge they'd rebuilt and a wall they'd painted, Mia and Alexander found that the strongest walls were those they demolished, and the most enduring bridges were those they built together. Tomorrow, the tour would continue. But tonight, they rested knowing that their hearts, like their art, had found a home they would never leave. Morning light filtered through the skylights of Mia's new studio loft, illuminating rows of canvases that held the echoes of their journey, sunrises over Kingston Foundation murals, children's laughter frozen in color, bridges reborn beneath paint-slicked rails. At the center stood their final masterpiece, a mural not on brick, but on canvas, two figures hand in hand beneath an arch of petals and birds, surrounded by tiny scenes of every town they'd touched. Mia stood before it, brush in hand, adding the last delicate strokes, a lilac ribbon curling from the locket Alexander had given her, weaving through each painted scene. She breathed deeply, her heart full of memories. Behind her, Alexander entered quietly, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. He set one beside her paint-stained palette and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Good morning, artist, he whispered, pressing his cheek to hers. She smiled against him. Good morning, partner. He kissed the top of her head. Do you remember Crestview? When Marcus hesitated before his first brushstroke. Mia laughed softly. He painted with such determination by day's end. His mural lives on in that town square. Alexander nodded. And Riverton's bridge, now shining blue again, carries new footsteps every day. Mia turned to face him, eyes bright. We gave those communities back their stories. And in doing so, they gave us ours. He took her hands. This mural, he said, gesturing to their canvas, is the culmination of every story, every risk, every moment we chose hope over fear. She dipped her brush into soft rose and painted a tiny petal at the foot of the bridge scene. It's our promise to keep painting, to keep loving without walls. Later that afternoon, they invited everyone who'd shared their journey, volunteers, local council members, Sophie, Clara, and even Mr. Diaz from Crestview, into the loft for the grand reveal. The room buzzed with anticipation, the scent of fresh paint mingling with laughter and coffee. Alexander tapped a spoon against his mug. The chatter hushed. He stood beside Mia in front of the canvas. When we first met, he began, I built walls around my heart. I believed success was all that mattered. He glanced at Mia. Then she arrived, camera in hand, showing me that the richest gift is connection. Mia squeezed his hand. With every mural, every photograph, we learn that art heals. It bridges gaps between strangers, transforms fear into courage, and turns empty walls into canvases of hope. With a shared breath, they pulled aside the drape. Applause erupted as the crowd took in the painting, scenes of painted boats, rising suns, dancing children, and the restored bridge, all nestled around their figures under the arch of petals and birds. Clara wiped a tear. It's breathtaking. Linda, from Riverton, leaned forward. It tells our story better than words ever could. A hush fell as Mr. Diaz from Crestview stepped up. Thank you for showing us that art and love are worth every risk. That evening, under string lights on Mia's rooftop terrace, they celebrated. Guests painted small tokens, stones, shells, mini canvas panels, adding strokes of color inspired by their towns. Marcus gifted Mia a tiny painting of a dove, and Mr. Adebayo's granddaughter wept with joy as she hung her family's portrait on a communal art tree. When the last guest departed and the city hummed below, Mia and Alexander stood alone by the mural canvas, holding hands. The night breeze carried the sounds of distant traffic and the soft rustle of lanterns above. Alexander turned to Mia. We started this believing we were creating art for others. But we ended up creating a life, for us and for every community we touched. Mia laid her head on his shoulder. And it's only the beginning. There are more towns, more walls to transform, more hearts to reach. He smiled and brushed a stray lock from her face. Then let's keep painting, together. Mia smiled back, eyes glowing with hope. Together. Under the stars, surrounded by the colors of their past and the promise of their future, they sealed their pledge, to build bridges with paint, to capture truth with a camera, and to live a love story boundless as the canvases they would continue to fill, one brushstroke, one heartbeat at a time. Hey there, story lovers. If you want to add a little more magic, adventure, and heartwarming moments to your day, make sure you subscribe to the Daily Stories channel on YouTube. Join our community of dreamers and seekers of inspiration. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our new story every single day.